I said, our district has put so much on them. By the way, I'm just thinking, what does this sound like to someone that's got a regular job? Okay, I want you to think about this.
You whiny teachers.
Okay, think about this. You go to work. My dream job right now is being a park ranger. You know why? Here's why. Because we went camping over the weekend. By the way, it was so great. It was just so... I love being outside. And I love the idea of camping. Well, we don't camp. We RV. But we did put up a tent for the kids.
We did? Well, we didn't put it up. Our son put it up.
I lost my train of thought. I was going to say.
You were talking about...
So I want to be a park ranger. So I'm thinking to myself, as a park ranger, I don't know what they do. I have no idea. I don't know. But I kind of got an idea what they drive around. They make sure people are, camping in the right spot. They check on things. They do maintenance. They handle calls. But think about this. Your job is dependent upon how well you do your job. In other words, you get up in the morning. Do you show up on time? Yes. As a teacher, do you show up on time? Yes. Okay, so far so good. Park ranger, your first duty is to go fill the feeders. I don't even know if that's a job. Okay, you go fill the feeders. Can you quantify whether you've done that or not?
Yeah,
yes.
Feeders are full.
Feeders empty. And if you're a park ranger out there, please let me know. I know I'm way off. And I know you guys have your own issues. You probably have this little park ranger
But
club.
he really would like to do that. He's no joke.
Yeah, but you probably have a little park ranger club where you get together and you talk about teachers and how bad they are. But anyway, that's cool. But, okay, so that's your first job. My first job as a teacher may be make sure the students do their warm-up and are in class and quiet. That's almost freaking impossible in today's climate. In my school it is. So then the park ranger drives around. He drives around, or she drives around. She takes money. She takes tickets. She maintains the vehicles. I mean, the park ranger is there to make sure that the park itself is maintained and orders made. I don't know. Whatever they do. I don't know. It looks like fun to me. But it's dependent upon what you do. My job is dependent upon what 155 young people do. And I have no control over what they do once they leave me. I see them for 50 minutes. And I have to be responsible for them passing a test. Even if I give 100%, 1,000%, whatever, what's that word when you overuse something? Superlative, whatever superlative I give, I can't make them do anything. No. As a park ranger. If you don't do your job, what happens to you?
Hopefully you get fired.
Yes. As a stockbroker, if you don't sell stocks, what happens to you?
You get fired.
If you're I don't know, make it up. If you're a street cleaner, if you don't clean the streets, what happens to you?
You get fired.
Okay, these things are in your
Hopefully.
purview. You have direct control. The stockbroker may have been a bad example, but you have direct control over what you do.
Yeah, maybe.
A garbage man, a policeman. You're making stops. You're making arrests. You're whatever it is.
Yeah. But as a teacher, your job is dependent on what other people do.
Yes.
You
people
have certain things you do, but you're trying to convince others to do something they don't want to do. It's very difficult.
Yes, and back in the day when I went to school 5 years ago, the thing was, you did what you were told to do because if you didn't do it, you got in big trouble. Not only at school, but at home.
But your parents would whoop your butt. Now, you call a parent and it's like, well, what did you do? What did they not do? Or blah, blah, blah.
My next door neighbor came over. He's a retired fireman. And I taught his grandson a couple years ago. And he said to me, he goes, "Hey, man, how you been?" I go, "David, I have been busier than a one-legged man in a butt-kicking contest." And he goes, "What's going on?" And I said, since we're IR, I've been to so many meetings. I have so much paperwork, all the stuff I told you about. I'm not going to bore you with all that. But he says, why is that little red light on right there? I don't like that. Why are they making you do all this stuff? And I said, because they think that the teachers need to we need to quantify and validate and verify and what's another good V word?
I don't know.
Whatever. We have to make sure, we have to justify, that's a J word. We have to justify all the things that we're doing, and we have to prove that we're doing it. We have to fill out this form, this form, this form, this form, this form. And he goes, what the hell are they doing that for? Pardon my language. Why don't they just let you do your damn job? And I said, well, that's a good question. And he says, it ain't, his words, it ain't the teacher's fault. It's the kids who are too damn lazy to do what they're supposed to do. And I said, well, tell me more about that. And he goes, you got kids today that are undisciplined. They don't care. Parents don't care. How can you teach those kids? He says, Todd, you know what we ought to do? He said, why don't you and I go down to the next school board meeting, and we'll act like the kids do in many of these classes. We'll just get in a fight in the back room. What will happen to us? I said, we'll get arrested. He said, what if we sit in the front and just talk and carry on and laugh and giggle and go to sites on our phone? What's going to happen to us? We'll be kicked out. He says, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
These people don't understand that. So let me finish up. I want to go over to another topic that we were going to talk about last week, and we didn't talk about it. But let me finish up with my principal. So I got done talking to her about all these things, and she said, do you really think people feel like that? And I said, yes. And I said, I really think you're going to lose your school. I think you're going to have folks that are leaving. I know 2 teachers right now that are ready to go, and they're already looking, not us. I mean, besides us. But you have 2 teachers that
Two other teachers
that will not be there after Christmas. I guarantee it. Oh my gosh, let me cover that up. Jeez.
Well, you're the one who has the thing going. Anyway, go ahead.
So, I don't know if she believed me or not, but she was like, really? And I said, I think you have big concerns. I really, really do.
Yeah. So
she did. I know she acted on it. She talked to a couple of people that I said were unhappy, and so hopefully things will change. But I have to say this: as critical as I have been of our leaders, where's my other hand? Oh, crap! Okay, leaders. That was a very good thing that she did.
Yeah.
And then she sends out an email to everybody today telling us we suck because we have any grades in. But she's making progress.
Yeah. This is very true.
Uno más, por favor, señorita.
Sí.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So,
what are we doing now?
Well, I'm podcasting. So, okay, let me finish up this segment or that conversation. So that ended. She said thank you. I thought that was fantastic. So a week ago, I'm reading the newspaper, and we have a school board election going on here in Midland. We had a school board member that retired, that her family moved. They're moving. I guess her husband retired, and they're going to move to a different part of Texas, where they have water and green grass and like hills, unlike where we live, which is flat and dry, dusty, and there's no water. But anyway, so she's moving, and they're having a special election that coincides with the national election here in a couple of weeks. And so we have school board candidates. We have 3 of them. And on Sunday, a week ago, they all gave their opinions as to what's going on, in education, what they're going to do, blah, 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 blah. What strikes me about this is, I'm sure these are all fine people. I don't know any of them. None of them have been in education, which you can make an argument that's a good thing that they're not. I don't know. Maybe I see both sides of it, but it's almost comical that these people that have never been in a classroom except to be a student 20, 30 years ago are now the people that want to make decisions for how best to teach, or choose people and programs that they think would be the best programs to enable me to teach better, which brings up the whole problem. So these school board members, I'm gonna try to find this on the internet, try to find what they said, because I want to read these quotes. I'm gonna read these quotes verbatim. But I was telling the folks, as you stepped out, that we have a school board election coming up, and these people, it cracks me up. They're so out of touch. They don't know what they're talking about. It makes me want to scream.
Are you finding it?
Well, I was hoping you would like to. Okay.
Sorry. Mm-hmm. Yes. Okay. That sounds good. I think we need to find out exactly what they said, because I don't know what you're talking about either.
Okay. So I'm going to read you some. There are 3 candidates for this job.
Okay.
And by the way, being on the school board, I mean, that's just, it's less than a thankless job. It's not, it's awful. But people
you basically go to meetings and...
Yeah. Thank you. Okay. So let's see here. How do I go? Let's see. We've got 3 people. I'm not going to read their names. But one is the president of the Midland Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. One is an attorney. And one is... He doesn't have a job right now. He's a salesman. Now, not judging these folks, but are these really the best people to... I mean, I don't know. Okay, I don't know. Maybe. So this one guy, who I read part of it, I kind of liked what he said. So here are the questions that they asked him. What is your stance... Ooh, come on. What is your stance on a secondary building initiative? That's code for what's your stance on building new schools and passing a $500 million bond? The next question is not here. Oh, grand. Where's the rest of this stuff? This just makes me sad. Okay, so here's what one says. One says, this candidate says she was on a long distance planning committee 6 years ago, and they proposed another high school, blah, 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 blah. She thinks that MISD must think outside the box. Not outside of the box, but outside the box. I don't think she should be an English teacher. But anyway, moving forward, freshmen should join the rest of the high schools. I agree. And 6th through 8th grade should also be together. That's the middle school concept. That's probably a good idea. But she's concerned that Southeast Midland is being left out. Not going to make a comment about that being a racial thing, but whatever. Here's the next guy. He's the attorney. We have terrible overcrowding right now. The idea of consideration of a new school has to be done. But it has to be done in a way that looks at the economy and what happens if the economy shrinks, which it will, and we have to be careful about building. He said he'd like to see the 9th grade in with the rest of the high school students. So he's a lawyer. He'd said nothing, basically.
I was going to say he talked out of both sides of his mouth.
He did. But that's what he does. Here's the other guy. This guy is the guy that doesn't have a job, but soon will, hopefully. He said he has more questions than anything. And without being on the board, he doesn't have the answers yet. This is kind of the Nancy Pelosi philosophy. We have to pass it before we can see what's in it. He says, before we go building buildings, I think we need to address the education side of it. Now, this is one thing I did like. He said, if you don't change the failing policies you've got in place, you're just going to be doing it in a new building.
I do agree with that.
The new infrastructure is nice, but it doesn't benefit the kids unless you're addressing the educational needs. So this guy, when he said that, I'm like, I'm voting for him. But then he said some other things that weren't quite so cool. So here's the next question. That's House Bill 5. We don't care about that. Okay, here's this one. How can MISD, which is our school board, our school district, best serve all of its students' populations? Now here's one. This is from the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce lady. That's a very good question because we don't know what MISD is doing. Well, you have 35 schools. 11 of them are failing. What is it that they're doing different that the others are not? I have no idea because it's not being communicated to us. I can tell you what they're doing.
Yeah. What are we doing?
Their kids are not freaking doing the work. Here's the attorney. I think MISD is doing a good job. If I was elected, I'd bet you $5. You can't bet. That's illegal. He's a lawyer. He should know that. I bet you $5 that the people on the school board would say, he's a cheerleader for teachers. Okay? Well, that kind of got my attention.
Okay.
This guy did say one group he's concerned about is 17-year-olds who end up in the criminal justice system. That's a pretty narrow group of folks, but okay. Once many are in, they never get out, especially with felonies. He said that it's interesting. He's interested in lessening truancy and seeing the district implement as best as possible state laws dealing with crime and punishment for 17-year-olds. I have no idea what he just said.
What? I don't get what that... I mean, hey, they start a lot younger than 17. If you start looking at them when they're 17, you are way too late.
The other guy, who doesn't have a job but will, said, why is that? We do have a number of very good schools here, so why aren't we taking some of the programs from the magnet schools and pushing them down to the ESL schools? If it's working at one school, why aren't we sharing or getting better policies and programs that certain students are getting because they're not allowed to attend a magnet school? Why aren't we making that available to all students? This guy's a moron. He's going to be elected school board person. Okay, I don't know if you're a moron, but seriously, buddy, soon to be working at a job. What kind of students go to a magnet school? They have to qualify to get in.
Right.
What kind of students go to my school? They just go there.
Right.
Buddy, have a clue. Seriously? This is what we have. Okay, here's the next one. We don't care about that. We don't care about that. It's about Austin.